Hello everybody, Joe Cool here from Reef to Reef, and today we're discussing DIY skimmers. I use a DIY skimmer due to the cost savings and the size of my tank. It's just not really efficient for me to run a name brand one and spend all that money. I could spend it elsewhere. Basically, to do this, I have built, this is a Venturi. You can buy the very expensive, fancy ones, the Mozzis or the Kent ones. I probably said Marazzi or whatever the name of the brand is wrong, but that's okay. So anyways, it only takes 5 pieces to make a Venturi, okay? You have a T. This is all based off of 3/4. So I have a 3/4 by 1/2 inch threaded T with a 1/2 inch ID by 1/2 inch MIP hose barb. You'll need 2 barbs. This is a 3/4 to 1/2 inch threaded reducer, which you'll cut and sand off all this so it's flush with this part so it can slide inside the T, and then this hose barb will slide inside the T fitting. And then you'll need a coupling to go on the end of it. So essentially, once you have this sanded down and this tightened in pretty good, you don't have to worry about thread tape or none of that, because it's really not going to leak by the time you get it all tightened down. And even if it is a tiny little spritz of water, it's not going to affect anything. Alright, so you get this in there. Once this is all sanded down, you slide it in just until the tip of this barb right here is at the bottom of this opening. And what this does is when the water sprays through, it creates a vacuum sucking the air in and creates bubbles. This is the one I've been using for a long time. I made it, it works fantastic. Then what you do is you get you some 1/2 inch vinyl tubing, you hook it to this. You can either run it outside your house. I don't recommend in a garage if you're parking cars in there, but you'll be sucking carbon monoxide and CO2 and all that in there. But if you can get this to the outside of your house, preferably not in an area where shrubs are or where somebody might be possibly spraying pesticides or anything like that. I don't have any issues where mine's at, but you possibly could. If you live in a community where the houses are like 10 feet apart, you might want to run it out to your back patio. Anyways, you want to run it somewhere up a pole, anywhere where it's not necessarily going to be affected by people spraying lawn fertilizers, pesticides, anything like that. You can use it inside. It won't help your pH as much, but you want to make a silencer similar to those in the smaller skimmers in order to quiet it down. Now the advantages to having a skimmer, as somebody was asking on another thread on Reef to Reef about, should I make my own skimmer? Well, the question is, yes, why not? When you look in comparison to the costs of a decent skimmer, say for even a 120-gallon tank, you're looking $300-400. And yes, the pump is essentially, if you're going to build your own, the pump is the most expensive part. But if you're not building a huge skimmer, you can buy a lesser expensive DC pump. Doesn't have to be fancy, because yet again, you're not buying a needle wheel pump because you have a Venturi. Okay? Now, another thing is if you don't want to build a couple of Venturis, yes, you can just use the DC pump to pump water into the top of the skimmer, such as here, where my Venturi goes. And then you're just running it in the top, and the drain will be at the bottom of the skimmer. And then you can use a recirculating needle wheel pump on the exterior of it to make all the bubbles you want. I prefer this method because I'm only using one pump to deliver. The Venturis make plenty of air, so depending on the size of your setup that you have or need to build, generally one is fine. You'd be surprised at how efficient one Venturi will work. I'm getting ready to do a reboot on this and do 2 Venturis in it because I just upgraded my tank. Now you ask, why is it so big? Well, the thing is that when you compare this to a manufactured skimmer, what they do is they make them so they fit in your sump or they fit under your stand, and they use the needle wheel pumps to shove so much air into it because it needs that amount of air and contact time in order to pull the dissolved organic compounds out and waste and everything that it's pulling out of your water in that short package to get the right dwell time. You know, they do a lot of science and play with that, and people say, oh, well, they're getting so much better. I wouldn't necessarily say they're getting better. I think that they're just making them different shapes. They're showing you on the cone, the bubble, the roundness, the reducing, the this, the that, the blah, 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 blah. You look at some of the other companies that have been making them for years, and they haven't changed them. They really haven't changed them. They're round cylinders, similar to this. They got flat top. Some of them, they have a Venturi on them that the water goes through just like this. It goes in the top, down in the bottom into a cup, and then it's got a tube off to the side, and that's how they've been making them for years. Now they just look pretty. Some of them, they got, you know, they're fancy acrylic, and like I said, they're coned. You know, they fit in your sump all nice, neat, and pretty. But I have, so anyways, you can definitely make a DIY skimmer, and the advantages of it are going to be you have a very long dwell time. So, you know, you have the speed, you can adjust the speed of the water so it moves through there slowly, and you're creating enough bubbles that you're taking it out. But when you think about, you have a 4-foot skimmer, you get a lot of time, and you do counter current, so the water is going past the bubbles as it's going down to the bottom to the drain. And they're just efficient, even more efficient sometimes than some of these fancy ones that you're paying hundreds of dollars for. I have a $100 and something pump. That's a DC one that I power this with, that I only run probably at 1/3 of its power, and was efficient enough to run a net of 250 gallons. This skimmer will run my 600 and something gallons, and all I have to do is turn the pump up, and I'm actually building a couple more Venturis to add to it. I haven't decided if I'm adding 2 or 3, but you know, you're definitely going to want to increase the drain size as well. Sorry if I'm skipping around a bunch, but basically, to answer the one thread's question, yes, build your own skimmer. If you have the room for it, even if you can place it on the other side of the wall in your garage, fantastic. If you want to run ozone, if you run ozone, I recommend getting a Kynar barb like this one. And then just putting a hole in your vinyl tube and running your tube from your ozone machine into it. You don't have to do that on every single Venturi. If you have multiple Venturis, more the merrier. Hey, why not? If you can put 3 on there, go for it. You can do all this in 1/2-inch tubes. So a lot of you out there with less than 200-gallon tanks can get away with just a 4-inch PVC, and all that's available at the home store. You get every single thing you need there. They carry, all home stores carry up to 4-inch PVC. It's inexpensive. So for, you know, $150, $200, you could have a badass skimmer with the pump, and you can build it yourself. Yes, you probably wouldn't want something like this sitting in your living room or next to your tank, unless you could build something around it. The only thing you hear is the Venturi sucking air. So, like I said, if you can put it in another room, you can put foam around this where you don't even hear it. I've done that because I've had it inside. You can get a spray foam, seal it up. You're just hearing sucking because this is creating a vacuum to suck the air in and make the bubbles. So And another thing is, I believe I told you about the hose for the fresh air. So as long as you don't have it outside where somebody's going to be spraying pesticides or fertilizer stuff in the air, a bunch of dust sucking in, it'll really help your pH. But you can keep it inside as well. So anyways, I am freezing right now. It's 31 degrees and high humidity here in Southwest Florida. So kind of why I'm all over the place is I'm freezing my butt off even in my garage. I know some of you are laughing at me right now, but look forward to my remodel thread and look at the reboot of the skimmer. I might just do a separate thread for it just so everybody can tag along. It'll be picture heavy, and probably should go ahead and start off with this video as well. So anyways, Joe Cool out, reef to reef. Talk to you later. Bye.